We are happy to announce the availability of training for AIME process. AIME, of course, stands for AI-Assisted Model-Based Systems and Software Engineering, which is also the name of a book that I'm writing with Tim Wilkins. So AIME process answers three important questions. First question, how do we leverage AI to accelerate our systems engineering modeling work? Second question is, what is the impact of SysML2 going to be? And the third question is, how can we model systems and software, hardware and software together? This third question is really the one that inspired me to write this book, because I'm a believer that in the year 2024, no one is building systems that aren't significantly based on software. My name is Doug Rosenberg, and I've been around the industry for a long time. I go all the way back to the pre-UML days, and for about the last 10 years or 15 years, I've been kind of on a crusade to integrate software engineering with systems engineering. Well, like a lot of people, I decided I wanted to kick the tires on this new AI software and find out what it could do, so I decided to try an experiment, which was to see how much of a complex system I could design just by myself with the assistance of AI. Well, I decided to use an electron microscope as my example project, and one of the reasons I picked the electron microscope was because it has significant hardware and software components to it. So I decided to use AI in a couple different modes, one as a subject matter expert and the other as a code generator. So as a subject matter expert, I decided to see how much does AI know about electron microscopes and get it to tell me, try and make me a domain model. Well, I immediately got a pretty good, very, very high level domain model. And then I started experimenting with different forms of prompting, and I got it to tell me really quite a detailed domain model. And it includes both hardware and software in that domain model. And in this big long diagram, most of the right side of it is software and most of the left side of it is hardware. And I'm manually transcribing what AI tells me textually into SysML. Next, I asked AI to tell me about use cases, and it gave me enough information for some use case diagrams, and in addition, it's actually very good at writing narrative use cases, and it's pretty flexible. You can use different templates. This is a template that I taught it that I particularly like because it's concise and it tells me about alternate and exception behavior. Well, then I wanted to see how AI did with requirements. Could it give me realistic electron microscope requirements? And it turns out that it can. And to get more than just the first set of requirements with some clever prompting, you can get requirements for each subsystem and requirements for the alternate and exception behavior in the use cases, even if you haven't defined your subsystems and your exception behavior yet. Well, it seemed like using AI as a subject matter expert was a pretty quick way to get a big start on our stakeholder needs, and next I wanted to see how it would do with logical architecture. And so I asked it to tell me about the subsystems and tell me about the parts within each subsystem, and it did pretty good at that too. The next part of logical architecture that I was interested in was state machines. So I asked AI to describe some state machines for me, and then I transcribed them into SysML, and they look pretty good. Well, next we wanted to start defining interfaces, so I asked AI to tell me about signals and interface blocks, and it did that with no problem. And then I asked it to tell me about IBDs, and it gave me all the information that I needed to draw IBDs. Well, I didn't see any reason to stop, so I asked it to tell me about things like sequence diagrams, and then decided, well, let's go take a look at physical architecture. And so I asked it to help me identify components, and specifically, kinds of components and commercially available components. And then I thought, well, maybe we can try simulating signal to noise ratio, and AI was able to help me get that information as well. So really, AI helped me with all 4 pillars of SysML: requirement, structure, behavior, and parametrics, and everything just went a lot faster with AI helping. Well, we've addressed our first 2 questions, but there's still that third question, which is what do we do about the software? And so we decided to try generating 3 different kinds of software, and that is user interface code, database code, and embedded code from state machines. Well, electron microscopes produce images, and there's some image processing that goes on in the SEM, and so the first thing I asked AI to do was design a database to hold the images. Well, I've been reading lots of articles about how good AI is at user interface development, and so I asked it to basically design the screens of the electron microscope. Now, there was some refinement that I did with prompting on those screens, but I didn't write a single line of any of that user interface code. And I didn't come up with the content that was on it either. AI came up with that content from its domain knowledge. And then our third type of code is embedded C++ code for microcontrollers. We had it generate Arduino C++ so that we might be able to do some testing on a Raspberry Pi. But it generates the embedded code from state machines. So AI helped me generate a lot of a SysML model and wrote a whole bunch of code. And, it's great that I can do it, but it's better if you can do it too, and that's what we teach in this 5-day training class. So in the training, you will basically follow in my footsteps designing the electron microscope and using AI to help. And you're going to walk through all the steps that you've seen in this video, but you're going to do it in a week as opposed to 6 minutes out of a video. So we believe that this is really the center of the bullseye for MBSE. You'll work faster, you'll work more efficiently, you'll work more accurately, and you'll get better results. So the book is still being finished up, but the training is available now. And please get in touch if we can help.